Hello and welcome to the Aura Podcast with your girl Kubi Springer. Today I'm sitting down with a real estate mogul who has built his career over the last 20 years.
If you're a real estate agent in 2009, they'd probably laugh at you and say, well, no one's buying real estate here. And it's sometimes people come into this thinking that, it's commission only, I'm just going to do a few deals and then go and sail off into the sunset. And in most cases, that doesn't work for people. Everyone hears the story about how their friend made £1 million in a month. You hear all the success bits, you don't necessarily hear all the struggles. I mean, the real estate market dropped around 70% in about 6 months.
Simon, welcome.
Good morning, welcome.
Good morning.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. First of all, how are you feeling?
Good, yeah, it's lovely. It's sitting in a new way of doing a podcast with your feet in the water, overlooking the Palm Jumeirah from the 50th floor. So it's amazing, yeah. Thank you for having me.
It's an everyday morning on a Monday.
I'm not sure for me on a Monday morning, but maybe for you.
Fair dues.
Yeah.
You have been in Dubai for 20 years.
Yeah.
You came from the UK.
It is.
What brought you here?
What brought me here? I think I was working at quite a boring sales job in the UK, in Swindon of all places. You've ever heard of Swindon? Probably not the most exciting place in the world. I was 19, just about to turn 20, and I thought there should be, maybe there's more out there, there's something better available to me. So I jumped on a plane, came to Dubai when I was still 19. Lots of challenges when you're that age. You can't rent a car until you're 21, I discovered when I came here, various things like that. But yeah, never looked back really.
Why Dubai? Because you were 19, you could have gone to New York, Paris, Italy.
Yeah, I think I've always had a bit of an affiliation with if that's the right word, for the Middle East. My dad worked in Saudi when he was young, in an engineering job. I'd lived in North Africa when I was a kid. So to me, it just felt like a sort of natural progression, natural place to go. But I hadn't ever been here before. So a lot of people said, wow, that's brave. I'm not sure it was brave. I think it's probably more stupid than brave.
Right. I came here on holiday and didn't leave with my then 10-year-old daughter. So brave, stupidity, same.
I think it's quite similar, isn't it? Yeah. So, and I thought, I obviously didn't love paying tax. And I've always struggled with English winters, that sort of getting dark at 3 in the afternoon, a grey weather. So, and here we are in the Middle East, but it's sunny most of the time.
20 years ago, Dubai, take us back. What was that like?
It's quite different, yeah. I landed in Abu Dhabi in the middle of the night. I think it was the end of June, 2005. And I remember just thinking, wow, look, this place is very sandy, lots of construction, and so very, very different place. Population was about 1 million people, so it felt more like a small town or almost like a village, because obviously the number of expats here, certainly British expats, you tended to know everyone. Lot less nightlife, not less restaurants. Obviously Dubai's evolved and changed so much from that perspective.
And you went into real estate because you felt that was something that was booming, or?
I think it was something I'd done a bit of work experience in the UK, and I always thought if you're going to do sales, and I'd always done sales, I thought if you're going to sell something, you may as well sell what's probably most people's the most expensive purchase they ever make. And obviously then Dubai suddenly got here and there were towers everywhere, and I thought, right, this is quite logical progression, there's buildings everywhere. This place was obviously, just starting a real estate boom then. And that first cycle, really, they started freehold real estate here in end of 2002. So that first boom was happening, and I thought, right, we need to jump on this bandwagon. But with very little experience, and started working for a small company just because they were the only ones who would give me a job, and went from there really.
And did you start off like a lot of people, I believe, in real estate, where there's no base salary or there's very little base salary?
That's it, yeah. So it's the market here is very much driven by commission only sales roles. So yeah, there's no salaries. It's very much sink or swim mentality, which is great. I'd actually already done commission only roles in the UK, so I was quite comfortable with that. Lots of people obviously think, wow, how do you go to work every day with no salary? I look at it as an opportunity rather than a negative. So it's a case of that rather than being restricted by your salary that you can only earn X amount, the fact that it's commission only is very much up to you, and there's untapped earnings, which is what's bringing lots of people over at the moment. Everyone hears the story about how their friend made £1 million in a month, or had done some huge deal, and you hear all the success bits. You don't necessarily hear all the struggles. Where people do have to work very, very hard. It's a very competitive market. It's not necessarily easy. So there's two sides to every coin.
There is. I mean, you come in 2005. That meant you were here when the '08 crash happened.
Yeah, certainly was.
Talk about, boom
games.
And bust. What was that like? What was it like here at that point?
I mean, the real estate market dropped around 70% in about 6 months.
Wow.
So as an overall figure, so it was scary times for people. People had been here buying and selling properties. People would go to a launch, buy a property, and sell it 2 weeks later. Some cases even the same day. So people were very much flipping, that whole mentality of flipping properties. People were here. Obviously, Dubai was just getting started really. So people were here with a much more short-term view. People would come on a 2-year contract. It'd be very much that expat style. We'd come to Dubai, get your 2-year contract, and then you'd probably leave again. Whereas I think Dubai's changed a lot more now. People are choosing here for lifestyle. It's not even necessarily that you're earning more money than you would back at home. Obviously, the tax aspect does help, but a lot of people are choosing Dubai from a lifestyle perspective for their families now. And I think it's much more of a long-term view. Hopefully that short-term flipping mentality has left really.
So for you, what was the big learnings from '08, particularly in real estate, on how you recover and build again?
Yeah, I think it was a really tough time. I mean, if you told people you're a real estate agent in 2009, they'd probably laugh at you and say, well, no one's buying real estate here. Ironically, that's probably the best time to have bought it. So a bit like more recently in COVID time, it was I was saying to people, look, if you can do it now, it's an amazing opportunity.
Because the down market.
Now we couldn't have predicted how well Dubai's recovered from that. Like, we didn't know that it was going to come back so strongly and so quickly as well. It could have taken 10 years instead of 2 years. But at the time, yeah, it was certainly if you can buy into a market at a price when everyone's running, as they say, buy when others are fearful, then I think it's certainly an opportunity. So 2009, there were very few buyers out there. I stayed in real estate. Lots of people have jumped in and out of it. That kind of fair weather sailing, if you like, that when the weather's nice, let's go and do real estate, and when it's tough, let's not. And I always figured that someone needs to be doing the buying and selling. So it doesn't matter if the market's good or bad or really, really terrible in 2009, someone's going to need to sell property. And if that's going to happen, then why not me? Right? So that was always the attitude. But I've always been quite stubborn, so.
I love that. And I would assume that stubbornness, that perseverance is actually what's giving you your competitive edge.
Potentially, yeah. I certainly think that, there's been times in Dubai where it has been really tough. People more recently have seen a really, really strong real estate market. It's probably been more, in the 20 years, there's been more tough years than there have been good years. So that teaches you really how to, build a business that's diversified. We cover all the different bits of real estate. It'd be easy just to do off-plan, for example. At the moment, everyone's saying buying off-plan. It would be the easiest way to make money. However, when the market inevitably at some point slows down a bit, then you need to be doing all these different bits and have a lot of strings to your bow to be able to make sure that you can weather any potential slowdown.
Let's lean into that diversification of business, because I think sometimes people don't pivot quickly enough, or they say this is what we do and they become so focused they don't realize the market's shifting, and thus diversification is needed. When did you know in your business, okay, we need to add more bows?
We built it on it probably during, so we opened Haus&Haus in 2013, and it was quite a good time in the market at that time. We had 2 quite good years, so we started building the company then, and then from about 2015 to 2020, you had 5 years of sort of probably slightly negative sentiment. It slowed down a bit, and that was most of the time we were building the company. So we were building it in a harder time, which is good for us. I think it toughens you up, So it makes you build it the right way. So we started with a really strong leasing team, which could look after all those rental properties. And typically people move to Dubai, they rent first, and then they might buy a year or 2 later. And then we then built a resale team. And we actually left the off-plan bit till last. So it would have been probably easier and faster way of making money to do the off-plan bit first. But we figured that having a proper real estate company, as you would have a traditional estate agents in the UK, we've got leasing and sales, property management, all the bits for like ready real estate before we did the off-plan bit. So that was the way we did it.
Weathering the storm, building a strong foundation is what I hear you say you were doing.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the teams that's needed to be able to do that. You've now got 500 plus people that are working for you. You told me off camera you've got a beautiful, is it a building?
And it's not a whole building. We've although people joke that we've tried to take over Golden Diamond Park in just opposite from Emirates Mall. We've got like 4 offices there. So each one of them is anything from like 5,000-6,000 square foot up to the biggest one, which is about 17,000 square foot. So between those 4, there's quite a lot of space. Real estate is quite a labour-intensive business, unfortunately. Obviously, a lot of talk of AI recently and all these things, and maybe that can help us out be more efficient in the future. But certainly for things like property management, maintenance, we do holidays, so short-term rentals, which is a good starting point. I think I mentioned to you before off camera, there'd be, people obviously come to Dubai, they need to typically rent a place first. So one step before that would be the short-term rental. Someone may be coming on holiday for a few weeks or a month first. And then that leads in, there's lots of referrals for the rest of the business. So people who are coming, renting for 1 or 2 years, and then they tend to want to buy something, whether it's an investment or it's a house to live in. So we try and cover all those bases.
And with your team, when you're choosing team members, what is it that you look for as a leader?
We're a company that really works to a set of 5 values to make sure that people, we really want people to want to do the job as the way we've done it. And maybe before we were a bit unconscious about that. I mean, unconsciously just looked after people. One of them's obsessed over customers, for example. And we really want to look after people, and we want to instill that in all the staff that work for Haus&Haus to make sure that they do the right job. They advise clients with a long-term view that's best for the client and not always best for the broker. Obviously, the problem with the way people are remunerated in real estate, as we've just discussed, is very much commission only. So it's very much, you get paid on results basis. And that can be a bit negative from a customer service, angle, because obviously people are being paid to, for the deal, for the kill, if you like, and not necessarily for a long-term view of making sure that if I was advising you on a property portfolio, we try and make sure that you make as much money as possible.
How do you train or encourage a young person in the organisation to do that? They're 25 years old, they've come from the UK, They want to make $1 million dirham deal, and you're saying, yeah, I know, but I also want you to think about the long-term investment.
And I want them to make $1 million dirham deal, of course, but actually the way, interestingly enough, is trying to educate them and train them. So we've got an amazing training team. So when you come in, they do a week's worth of training initially, and then they've got that training team to support them for, certainly for the first 6 months, but even on an ongoing basis. I think trying to teach people that actually, if you build really strong relationships with customers, that will get you the $1 million dirham deal later. But it's that kind of idea of like delayed gratification, really. You will do better at this job if you really look after your customers. If you really make sure that your clients' needs come first, they will recommend you to all their friends, and then suddenly you actually get better and better at that job. So if you want to do real estate here, people in the past have sometimes come thinking, I'll do it for 1 or 2 years, and that doesn't really work. You need to come for long term. You need to come with a view that, hey, this is a career.
Not a quick buck.
You're not a quick buck, right? And it's sometimes people come into this thinking that, it's commission only. I'm just going to do a few deals and then go and sail off into the sunset. And in most cases, that doesn't work for people. They really need to be having a long-term view that, hey, yeah, this is a career. And you need to get really good at it, and you need to build a network of, your own client network, if you like. And the better job you do and the better advice you give people, the more referrals and the more, their friends will say, hey, you should use so-and-so because they really looked after me. And that's how you're going to get the really big deals in the future. It might not happen in the first 6 to 12 months.
I mean, business 101, right, is all about the relationships that you build as opposed to just the money you make on the first one.
I think, unfortunately, the world of social media that we live in, it's very easy for people to be, you get young guys and girls coming and saying, oh, I've done this, and, and it's very easy to shout about all the success, and people don't necessarily see almost all the hard work you've put in, but behind the scenes.
Let's talk about social media, because things like Selling Sunset and what's the Australian one now that I absolutely am obsessed about? Oh, the name's gone. But it's become really...
We had our own TV show on BBC, actually. It was called Dubai Hustle, yeah. So that was all about Haus&Haus. And, typically, young guys and girls, new to the job.
I've seen Dubai Hustle.
Yeah,
Sorry, old moment.
There we go.
Just tell us a little bit about why that was important for the business.
Do you know what? They came to us and they wanted to do a really honest show. And I said, if you're going to do it, I think it should be really honest. It receives mixed reviews. I'm not sure it's all positive, but we tried to be as honest as possible. And I said, I don't just want to see, the glitz and the glamour of Dubai, although obviously that's part of what the show's about. I also wanted to be, them to see that people are having to work incredibly hard. And it's not just a case of turn up for a viewing, you're looking glamorous and they make some money. So hopefully it was fairly honest review. I mean, they ended up doing 3 seasons of it, and I think it's now come to an end. But it was fun while it lasted. And it certainly helped promote the company. I think and it's all publicity is good publicity, as they say. So
well, the twins that run the Oppenheim group that do Selling Sunset, which I think is on season 9 or something.
Yeah, it's still going, isn't it?
Yeah, they have openly said that their business has quadrupled. I don't know what the data point is, and we'll probably put it on the lower third.
I guess that's probably a far better publicised show than I was to give them their dues. And also, I think they're quite a different company. They're just selling ultra luxury properties. They're selling quite a small number of units. And I think those guys have obviously done very, very well from that. We do much more sort of, the whole market, if you like, in Dubai. As I said, from leasing, apartments, villas, as well as luxury, but an awful lot of mid-market stuff. And yeah, I'm sure it has helped us a little bit, but it probably hasn't necessarily changed the business too much.
Do you believe, and this is something that I see on socials, that real estate brokers and alike need to have personal brands and need to have strong social media? And do you believe in that?
I think it's certainly evolved. Yeah, we've recently, we've been doing a lot more work on social media. We've got a brand ambassador campaign, which now really helps, and we've got dedicated people who are constantly in the office filming content and stuff for key people, and it certainly helps for sure. People need to get out there and wave their own flag as well, and hopefully, obviously, as a business, we can provide a lot of support for them to do that, provide the platform, and then they can obviously go and succeed from there, hopefully.
Do you do it for yourself as the leader?
I do a little bit, yeah. I get roped into it recently, so we do a bit. Which and again, for me, it's less about trying to find clients and and create a network with that. It's more just of trying to represent the company in the right way. So we probably felt that someone needs to be the face of it. So
yeah,
quite happy to do it.
I'm going to say, actually, as a brand builder, if I was doing your PR, I would absolutely be making you the face.
Right.
Yeah, I'd be driving that
Thanks.
more.
Yeah.
All right, we're getting the wrap-up signs. I want to ask a couple more questions before I go into quick fire.
Yeah.
The first one I want to ask you is, what do you think, you touched on AI, what do you think is the role of technology and AI in the future in real estate?
I think there's always been a lot of noise about prop tech and, AI to do with property. And I think a lot of the time people are creating systems and processes that probably aren't necessary. I think, as you said, it's really important that AI actually makes people's life, faster, more efficient, easier to do, whatever it might be, whatever task you're trying to do. So I think it needs to solve a genuine problem rather than trying to create a problem in the first place that doesn't exist. So I think as long as it's useful, as long as it can make people more efficient and get brokers to spend less time doing admin and more time with customers, building relationships, then I think it's amazing.
I get that. And Simon, my last question for you, what do you want your brand legacy to be?
Well, funnily enough, I was laughing with my business partner on holiday. Our two young boys were both talking about taking over, which is exciting. I said, no, you're going to have to go and fight your own battles. His is 9 and mine's 7, so they've got a little way to go. Well, they seem quite keen.
Of course they do. They're the next generation.
Yeah, I think they thought that, this is easy, right? Yeah. No, I think, we want to build a really, really strong brand that we can be really proud of. I think certainly in Dubai, real estate gets a bad rep sometimes. Which is a real shame. People have, so we're really all about having a really, really strong reputation. And as I said earlier, we sort of hire and fire on that basis. It's far more than numbers. It's all about making sure that we've got a bit of a legacy that we can be very proud to say that we built that company and help support the growth of Dubai, because I think Dubai's given us all an amazing opportunity. And this very forward-thinking, fast-growing city has just given us an amazing opportunity to build a real estate company that certainly makes it a lot easier from that perspective.
I love that. All right, quick fires. You ready?
Okay.
Okay, I think I know what your answer is to this one, but let's go. Off-plan investment or ready to move in?
I love off-plan personally.
I knew you were going to say that because it's the cherry on the top.
Yeah.
Visionary leader or hands-on management?
I think it's a difficult one. Ooh, hands-on management. We're always leading from the front. And
I feel that.
People, so.
Yeah, I feel that from you. With vision, but I feel that you're very hands-on.
Yeah, hopefully some vision. That's the tough one, right? You're not winning on either answer there, right?
I love it. Marina skyline or palm luxury?
All palm luxury where we're sitting, right?
Yeah, hello. Absolutely. Innovation or consistency?
Consistency when it comes to real estate. Yeah. It has to be.
Yeah. I get that. Hire for skill or hire for attitude?
Hire for attitude.
Yeah. Simon, it's been a joy having you on your podcast. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
I think another TV show is on the way.
I'm not sure, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for listening, guys. Thanks for being on. Thanks for listening. I love real estate. So, you know what? I think we can all take some tips from this, whether you're a young person just coming over trying to build your real estate empire and trying to understand how it works, or whether you're somebody who's actually thinking about, how do I trust a broker? I think this is the episode for you. Enjoy it.